This video contains gratuitous use of profanity and uncomfortable pauses to compensate for lack of professionalism and original thought. Viewer discretion advised.
Coming to you live from the 6th dungeon of Rita and Zed, we bring you the Nerdy Manroom show with your host, Hassel and Monster.
You went with that instead of Bandora Palace or Angel Grove or the Command Center or anything.
With Rita and Zed's Boom Boom Room.
That probably would have been even better.
I mean, you just got to think, Monster. This girl come out of a dumpster and went, so if she got the Wayne, oh man, it's loud.
After 10,000 years?
Boom goes the dynamite.
Well, if anyone can't tell, our focus topic this week is actually going to be the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and coinciding with the 30th anniversary special that just dropped on Netflix on the 19th, which we're recording on the 20th. So we're, a day later, so we got a chance to watch it, and we'll be able to review it. I think originally we were going to try to do this before the show, but it actually worked out better. So now we can actually touch on that and review it some. But before we get to that, let's make sure we thank our sponsor, These Own Collectibles. You can find them on the internet at theseowncollectibles@gmail.com and on Facebook at These Own Collectibles, or in their store at 305 Main Street, Tifton, Georgia. Visit them for all your nerdy needs, from comics to Legos, trading cards, toys, games, Power Rangers for sure, and more. Help them support the local artist community by supporting their cause of bringing unity through community. Fandoms unite. And with that, I think we got just a smidgen of Geek Week update. I know it's been about a week and a half for us because I was out traveling for work, so very small week, and then I came home sick, and that put us behind by a couple of days. So I did have a chance to do a couple of things, but not much. Did you go first last time, or did I? I don't remember.
Probably me. So it's your turn. I said,
Rolling
Cobra, like I said on House's review this week, Rolling Cobra is like just taking you over.
I haven't actually watched anything on my YouTube stuff at all this week, and I've got like 30 videos saved for watch later, and I'm so far behind because I've had meetings all week long, and they were like, one of them was a day-long meeting, one of them was a half-a-day meeting. Today I had to catch up all the other ones that I had to miss for those. I moved them all to today, so I had like 30 minutes free today. So I am like way behind on listening to stuff, but for my Geek Week, to start off, I did have a couple of toys come in. The only one I've gotten to mess with is the MP57 Jetfire. Really nice. It looks really great in robot mode.
It's very clean looking. It looks sporty.
Yeah, the robot looks like it came straight off the screen. And honestly, the transformation sequence to him is actually pretty cool, especially like the way they do the wings. So like everybody else just kind of folds the wings over. This one, the wings actually fold in on themselves and then fold inside to stick out. I'm like, that's actually far different than anybody else I've ever seen do it. But it looks great in robot mode. The jet mode is a little bit gappy in places. It's like they were trying to make it so close to the robot mode because that's how most people keep them. They're like, we'll cut corners here and there, and there's like, it looks great from certain angles, and in other angles you look at it, it's like, why is there a big space in here? And there's just small things like that. Now all the accessories that come with it's really neat because you've got the miniature bots that actually would be about the size they should be against him for Optimus and Jazz and Bumblebee, and he's got thrusters and a flight stand and everything. But a lot of that stuff cool, I would never use, but it's really cool. I do like that they gave him the effect pieces too for his flight. So like you could plug into the jet piece on the backpack the two, what would be the afterburner trails. And it looks like, and they fit inside the gun too. The problem is on his gun, you can only put one in there at a time. So I'm like, well, that's kind of couldn't have widened the gun just a little bit or thinned those up just a little bit so you could put both of them, because he's got a double barrel gun, but only one barrel could actually shoot if you put the effects in. So I didn't use it, and I just kind of put it back in the box and put it up. But plus he's so big, he really barely fits on the shelf I put him on. But I got him, and then I got a bunch of other stuff that I haven't even had a chance to touch because some of it went to another address so I can keep up with it because I was out of town. But like my Uncanny X-Men set's here, but that's at the other place. My G.I. Joe Classifieds just got here to the house today, all that way with Falcon and Outback and all them. So I haven't even had a chance to touch them. My Impulse from DC Multiverse came in today too, but all those are just kind of like sitting in boxes over here off to the side.
It's Christmas in April.
Yeah, yeah. But besides getting those in, the only thing I've really had time to do is when I came home sick, I had some time to catch up on TV. Most of it not too wonderful or shocking, but I did watch Star Trek Picard. The series finale is this week. Watching it all up to this point, I'm like, this has been a really good season. The first two are meh, but this one has been really good. This one seems like Next Generation, the final episodes, or what it should be for to end their
So
series.
some real closure for the show.
Yeah, I mean it's had everybody back in it, and they actually I don't want to spoil anything, but they actually go get their ship at the end of this last one because all the current ships are on a wide network, and it's being taken over by the Borg, so they go get their own the Enterprise D because it's not on
Now,
the
was
actual.
it the original chick that played the Borg Queen in the movie?
They have not shown her except from behind shot so far, so I don't know if it's her. Everybody else that's been on there has been the original actors. You've had they even brought Data back and actually aged him up to say, hey, it's a different body and stuff like that. So they made him the age he should be to fit Brent Spiner because there's no way he can look like he did in Next Generation.
Yeah, he's had a few cheeseburgers.
But they've upgraded him and he's on there and everybody else is there. They even had like the ensign who was in the last season, Ro Laren, who got into a lot of arguments with Picard and stuff. It's kind of like a younger person to put on the crew. Like even she came back for an episode. So it's like the nostalgia feels just right. It's been really good so far, and I'm excited to watch the finale after we finish recording today. So I'm looking forward to that. But other than that, I did go watch Super Mario Brothers at the theater, and I don't remember if I'd seen it by the last time we recorded. I don't think I had just yet, but man, it was really good. It was easy 8 movie, probably even an 8.5. It's very nostalgic. Just had fan service moments throughout the entire thing, and what I was really surprised by was the voice acting. Because I really thought that those voice actors would just be themselves, being the character, but no, they actually played the characters and stuff, and it was a really fun watch. I mean, it was entertaining the entire way through it.
Yeah, I'm a little jelly. I haven't got to see that or John Wick yet, so yeah.
Yeah, and John Wick was actually really good, so you still got to go see that. But I would take the time to go watch. I would tell anybody if you're going to take time to go to the theater, John Wick and Super Mario Brothers are what's there right now worth watching. Besides that, the only other thing I have watched, and we're going to discuss it in the focus topic, so I'll leave it for there, was the Power Rangers special. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Well, last weekend I done a triple feature, like I covered on the review. Knocked out Smile, Tetris, and Knock Out the Cabin. All 3 really good movies. Tetris was one that really liked this. I was far more engrossed in this movie than I thought I would be.
So I've heard that, and I want to watch it. I seen your reviews on there, but like again, I haven't had time to watch any reviews this week, so I haven't seen it. Where did you watch it at? What is it on?
It's exclusively on Apple TV, and that was originally why I was like, I won't get to watch it because I'm not getting another fucking streaming service. And like my cousin hit me up and he's like, hey dude, they got like 7 days for free. And the Braves were playing on there. So it's like, I haven't been able to watch hardly any Braves this season. So I was like, you know what? I'll bite the bullet. I'll do the 7-day trial. So I done a 7-day trial to watch the Braves game. I watched the game at night. And then a couple days later, I watched the Tetris. And dude, it was fucking great. It's just, I think it's like an hour, 59 minutes. It's a hair under 2. But it doesn't seem like, like some movies
yeah,
it's 2 hours. This here just like blows by. It was really, really great. I mean, it was.
I've heard it is really well done, and like you really feel for the folks who created the game by the end of it for some of the stuff the way they're done.
that was the best.
Don't spoil it, but I want to watch it. But I don't have Apple, so I'm like, and I'm leaving town again for work next week, so I'm like, oh, so how do I work this out so I can watch it without losing the 7 days before I get to see it?
Yeah, it was so funny. My wife, we were sitting there watching it, and Amy goes, man, I hope after everything he goes through, he gets the rights to this game. And I just look at her and I'm like, baby, you realize this was packaged with Game Boy. I said, I hate to be the spoiler game, but he gets the rights. And she was like, you just ruined the whole movie now. I was like, what?
It's like the Titanic and Pearl Harbor. You know the ending.
Yeah, you just don't know how. And I won't spoil everything on how, but it's a really good movie. If you get it, it's worth getting a 7-day free trial. Now, even if you paid for 1 month for like $6, I guess it is, it's worth that.
I got you.
And Smile as a horror fan, I enjoyed it. The monster was a little less than desirable aesthetically, but it was a pretty good movie. And Knock at the Cabin was great too. Like Shyamalan's always been hit and miss with me. Like he either like really knocks it out of the park or just a turd. This right here, pretty. Even if you're not a horror fan, because they do cutaways for the kills, anyways. You see some blood, but you know what I'm saying. It's not like gore, shit like that. You don't have none of that, but it's done in a visually in a way that's very very good. I commend him. And Batista like blows it away, but he's probably the most. You get the vibe of how sympathetic this guy really is, and they don't want to do this, but they have to.
It's funny because I remember seeing the previews for that, and I saw when it was on Peacock, and I was like, I heard anybody actually talk about how the movie actually was at all. It's like,
it's
just
free
went
on
under the
Peacock
radar.
right now.
Yeah, I've got it on my list to probably sit down and watch it. I just wasn't sure how gory and stuff it was. And I was like, because Shyamalan stuff
blood.
Is like, and his stuff is you have a great
Very
one, and you have one that's like,
To me, it was along the lines. I like. It's kind of Sixth Sense good to me. I mean, it was kind of like, but like I said, there's deaths in it, but like no real gore. You see blood afterwards. They do cutaways, but it's like timed just perfectly to where it's like, okay, you know what happened, but that was something Alfred Hitchcock and some of what some of the early masters would do is like, because they always said that what your mind can come up with is far worse than what we can.
Oh yeah. Which is why I like reading some of it more often, and I'll get more chills from reading some of those things than I will from actually watching them on screen.
I think you would enjoy this one. I told Al the same thing. I know Al, Big Rob's not a horror guy, but I told him, look, if you get a chance, it's like an hour and a half. It's not very long. So
cool. I'm gonna have to check that one out. I've been meaning to. I haven't stopped long enough to do it, and there was other stuff that I really wanted to see first. So.
Beyond that, like I said, the new package just dropped on WWE 2K. You got the Steiner brothers finally, and I briefly got to play with them on my lunch hour yesterday. They're a fucking beast. Rick's a 90, Scott's a 91, and they're from that 90-91 era. And dude, they're fucking badass on there. So they beat the Usos for the tag titles yesterday when I downloaded them.
And I'm sure that's been planned for a while for them to be the download, but I'm surprised they still kept up with it considering all the hate Rick Steiner's getting right now.
But dude, did you see how quiet that got real fast? Like it was.
Yeah, dude, it was blown up for like 2 weeks there, maybe 2 weekends, 2 weekends and a weekend, and it's just like, all right, now it's gone.
But because it was more a publicity than anything. Because you had never heard of this person that he had supposedly said all this shit about. No one even knew who the fuck that person was. That's the most publicized that person ever got in his career was, Rick Steiner supposedly bashed me and said some hateful things. Okay, he's a 60-fucking-year-old man. He has a different belief system than you, obviously. I mean, good, right, wrong, good, bad, whatever. I mean, older generations are older generations. They're not going to agree with everything that younger generations agree with. Does it should have kept it itself? Of course. I mean, in an environment like yes, but I mean, what's to say it really had transpired the way that it was reported?
Well, that's the thing. Everything that I've heard afterwards, it actually came out. Like I said, the first weekend you heard about it was just you heard about what he said and what it was about. And it's like, okay, you're in the wrong. And then you hear the next weekend that he's been released from that school board he was on because he was elected to a school board, and that was like his big thing. He was released from that. And then it comes out the story was that he didn't just pick the fight with the person, apparently. Did you hear the rest of it or not?
It was kind of my understanding, like the person came in contact with him and made some remarks, and then he fired back.
No, so what happened originally, this is the story that's come out since then. So yeah, I heard that, but the story that came after that was the entire thing started because you're at a convention. You know how the lines people get in line, they get there for autographs, things get held up. Apparently the person that he said things to, and I'm not excusing what he said because what he said was wrong. But when it started, apparently that person and another person were like, hey, they ran into each other and they knew each other. So they started talking and they were like halfway in front of his table. So the line wasn't moving and the line wasn't moving. So, and the people were trying to figure out what's going on. They couldn't get around it. The whole line was getting frustrated. So he asked them to hey, can you move? And you know, it's Rick Steiner. He's not gonna say, hey, can you please step 3 feet that way or whatever. He probably said, hey, you need to move, because it's Rick Steiner. He doesn't have that mentality.
He's
right?
not quite Scott, but he is Rick Steiner. I mean,
So what happened apparently then was that they didn't move either fast enough for him, or they didn't move at all, and that's when that's when Scott, apparently because he was there with him, explained who that person was and said and told him how to get rid of them. So then he started yelling the things at them to get those people to move, and that's what started all of it. So while I don't agree with what he said, and he shouldn't have said it, but it wasn't all just because he decided to pick a fight with somebody. It's because
it wasn't.
they
He
were
was singled
impeding
out
upon
someone as
his
a hate crime.
yeah, they were impeding upon his personal space and his table and his fans, and he got pissed about it. And he
I'm
decided,
surprised that Scott was smart enough to deflect and let Rick do the dirty work.
well, it was all in his way. And I guess because Rick had asked them to move and then they didn't, that's what set him off. So he wanted to say something more, but he didn't know where to go because he didn't know them. And then Scott told him who they were, and he was like, oh, well, now I know what I'm going to say. So apparently that's how that happened.
Unfortunately, when things like this happen, you always get the allegations first.
Yeah.
Then a sliver of the truth comes out, and then you get it back and forth. And then a couple weeks later, when it's too late, this person's been drugged through the mud a lot. You get, okay, this is what actually transpired. But everyone's so scared to speak up in the initial allegation time because you're so scared that you're not going to be viewed upon as being accepting or woke or what the fuck ever. That people don't really come forth with, hey, this is what I saw.
Yeah, well, apparently it came out in several different podcasts have said they've talked to several different wrestlers who were there at the event for the sightings, and that's how it all transpired, apparently. That's where it started from, but nobody knew that till like a week and a half later or whatever it was.
Hey, I'll tell you what, at 6 years old, I still wouldn't fuck with Scott Steiner or Rick, either one.
No.
I mean, I still think the old DFG might still have a little something in him. I wouldn't throw hands with him.
No, you don't want to catch these hands, as Billy says.
No, sir. But yeah, I downloaded them. It was pretty fun to play with them. I ain't got to do much. I have been playing the My GM mode finally, and I want to say it's far fucking harder than the years past. Like I don't know if you played it yet. No, I was kind of saving it because I like to download characters. And last year on 2K22, if you put creative players on there, then you decided later you wanted to delete them, you couldn't fucking delete them if they were part of your My GM thing. So I was trying to be careful about, and then I finally said, you know what I'm going to do? The WCW brand, because you can do WCW this year with Eric Bischoff or whoever you want as a general manager. So I done the WCW brand. I got Nitro going, and it's a lot harder than the years past. Like a year past is like pretty much as long as you don't just shit the bed, you stay consistently at the top. Like I've only got to like number one position like twice. I'm there now, but it's like I just struggled there for a while. I was like fourth for the longest time. So holy shit, NXT was kicking my ass. Kurt Angle was running NXT like a beast right now on there. So I'm enjoying it. It is fun, but it is a lot harder than the year past. Beyond that, I haven't watched a whole lot. I've watched the Mandalorian finale tonight, with the lovely. We're going to watch that. And I did get a good toy haul in. A Big Bad Toy Store. I got the Luke Skywalker from the episode of The Mandalorian came in, the Black Series. I got the Crimson Bat. I got two of those because I'm going to definitely open one, but now I'm thinking about opening everything because they're all fucking windowless anyways. Because I can't really display. Well, I can't really display the boxes. That's what sucks. Because I got Falcon and I got Slaughter's Marauder barbecue, and then I should have a package tomorrow that's actually because the Spirit was on sale for like $11 on Big Bad, and I got Weapon X to go on my Age of Apocalypse shelf. I got both of them like $10, $11. They should be here tomorrow. I did get I finally scored me a loose Dark Beast for my Age of Apocalypse shelf. So once Weapon X gets here tomorrow, my Age of Apocalypse shelf will be pretty well complete. Other than X-Man, I still haven't got an X-Man or a Sugar Man, but I've got the main ones I want.
Yeah, I got the Falcon and the Outback and Cover Girl and Barbecue all from that set that came out recently. I ordered two of Outback and Falcon to open. I need to get another Cover Girl. I don't think I'm going to get another Barbecue to open just because, as much as I like him, it's the repaints. I'm trying to condense the shelf somewhat. The only bad thing is now I'll have 2 Outbacks open because I found an all damaged, beat up Outback at Target and they sold it to me for like $9, and I was like,
Oh,
hey.
sweet.
So I opened him, and when I originally was only planning on having him in the package and wait for the regular one, but whatever.
I did get email confirmation today that my X-Men 3-pack with the Forge, Storm, and is it Jubilee?
Yep.
See that's shipping. It's finally hit, and then I got my maskless Michael Keaton Batman shipping from Target. So I'm pretty happy.
I've actually got both boxes of the Uncanny X-Men packs in, but one of them is not at the house. One is, and one is not.
I haven't got anything email-wise about Gambit. Then I'm like waiting on. That's the one I'm like really waiting on.
It's so weird too because like I order all that from Hasbro Pulse, and usually they're behind like Big Bad and them because they send it to them first. But like those I've already gotten. I've just gotten the Power Ranger Cobra Kai's that crossover figures, which those came in this week too, and those are still not available at Target yet. They're still showing just as pre-orders.
The Johnny and the Black Ninja they've been showing lately looks really good.
I've got him pre-order because that one went up for pre-order this week as part of their Power Week for the special dropping, and then
is Diaz who they got in the red? I kept seeing the red one post, but I was like, I couldn't really make out if that was supposed to be Diaz or what.
It is, but the face sculpt on that one is terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. That's why I was like, is that Diaz or that Daniel?
The Daniel and Samantha I've got in, they look good. The putty, Skeleputty one is actually behind where it's in the skeleton outfit as a putty. That one's delayed, but I got that stuff in the Target hadn't yet, and I got in the X-Men packs like last week. I just haven't had a chance to mess with them, and then
I was pretty jelly when you sent the picture. I was like, how the fuck did you already get that? I mean, Big Bad and you was like, Pulse delivered.
But like the Star Wars Black Series Luke from The Mandalorian, you're getting that from Big Bad. Mine still doesn't drop until next month from Hasbro Pulse for some reason.
Dude, I'm so on the fence whether to open that or not. I want to open him so bad. But none of my other Black, I've only opened one other Black Series, and that was Darth Maul. And I regret it because he was part of that first wave. And now it's like looking back, I wish I'd have kept him MOC. Yeah. But this Luke is like, he's not winnerless. And it's not the first Luke they've done. It's not the first black, outfit Luke they've done because I got that one.
Version of that Luke they're doing. They just, the 40th anniversary one on the card bubble is that exact same figure with a different cloak, I think.
Yeah, he's probably the one we were supposed to get with the Rancor.
I'm sure he is. Oh, but with that, you ready to move into our focus topic, sir?
Man, let's fucking morph, brother.
So, for everybody out there, it is Morphin Time. We're going to talk about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. We are going to keep it condensed to just the Mighty Morphin era. Maybe touch on Zeo a little bit, but not terribly. But we wanted to make sure we really touched on the 30th anniversary part, which is the Mighty Morphin. And,
more power than
and we're doing... That was Zeo, but that was good.
Zeo.
We did say we wanted to keep it to them, but we want to do all of Mighty Morphin because, as you saw in the special, we'll talk about it a little bit. We'll try to do spoiler free as much as possible. I think just maybe hit the highlights of it.
You know what? We're hitting this, baby. We're gonna do this. We're gonna review.
All right. Well, we'll do a review then. But most everyone from all these seasons of that was in it in some capacity, or their character was in it to some capacity. So we'll hit on all 3 seasons of Mighty Morphin. Maybe probably not the Alien Rangers too much, even though I actually liked the Alien Rangers outfits. I just could have cared less for the way they did the aliens looking when they were demorphed. But I love their outfits and stuff, and I thought they were cool.
Like, what was that movie with like Sigourney Weaver that was shit? It was a comedy.
They had
Tim Allen. Shit.
Yeah, but you know what they look like to me is the I can't remember the name of it. It was a TV show, and it was like Alien Nation or something where there's a detective.
Yeah.
And that's what their heads. Yeah, that's what they look like. But you're talking about Galaxy Quest.
That's what I'm trying to think of. That's what it reminded me of always for some reason. It's like, did you just get these on sale from them? And
probably so. But I think before we take a look backwards, how about we jump on first and hit the 30th anniversary special? So if anybody doesn't want to hear about it, skip ahead, let's say 5-ish, 10-ish minutes. And you won't have to hear it or go watch it.
But you're going to want to hear this.
So Hassel, what was your take on it?
Dude, I was actually super impressed. First of all, they come out the gate swinging. Like, it don't bullshit. It comes out the gate swinging. You know, because I was like, whoa, I was expecting like, is this a time loop and they're gonna go back? But no, it's like it comes out, you know, with action. I thought that they done a pretty as good a job as you could have of having the characters you wanted that you couldn't have, like Tommy and you know, obviously Trini, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But you know, the original Red Ranger and Kimberly, because the sounds were there. You could tell it was their voice doing the you know
They used archive audio.
yeah. So you had that right there. So that was cool enough to me, and it actually spotlighted Zach and Billy, which is something that the show failed to do a lot. So
yeah, they will have episodes.
You got them out of the way pretty quick, the ones that mattered, and it really established just how badass this Robo Rita was. Which I'll say she looked great to me. I liked it.
The head, the proportion of the head was the really weird part because it was like oversized.
Yeah, it was oversized, yeah.
But the rest of that looked really cool, and I love the fact, and this is a spoiler, people, so if you don't want to hear this, close your ears for like a minute. The fact that they used an alpha unit, and that's what her spirit took over and turned into Rita was like really cool concept. I was like, all right, that was a cool. I thought overall the entire thing was really well done. They did come out starting right into the action, and then they did a little bit of a time jump to a year later, you know, inside of the special itself. But it kept going back to what was happening. Then it explained why Rita was back. It explained what caused that to be back.
How cool was it? It was Billy's fault that she come back because he was trying to bring Zordon back.
Oh, dude, that's what I loved about it because it's like, okay, he's trying to bring it. So it explains it's not just she came back. Because that was everybody's question. It's like, where did she come from? How did she come back? Because she was destroyed by the Z-Wave. But as she explains, Zordon's particles were not the only ones spread across the universe.
They went the Zach and the Shrek method with the onion. You got layers.
Yeah, and they left it open for a further special because, you know, at the end of it, they're like, well, if maybe Zordon is still out there, maybe we should still try and bring him back. The Easter eggs was a really big deal to me because, and I know you haven't watched every year and every season of it, but I've watched every season of Power Rangers just to keep up with it. And some of them are terrible and really, really, really bad. The campiness gets really bad in some, and the acting gets horrible in some of them. But the fact that they reference so many things, like Billy's talking about going to Miranoi, which is the Lost Galaxy planet from that season. When they enact the Bandora protocols and you see the Astro Megaship, Coral Reef side, this is all places where they had different seasons of the show. Turtle Cove, I mean, that was different seasons for all of those. That's the town they were in or the city they were in, and just seeing all that was really cool. And the fact that throughout the course of this, they reference the fact that there's Power Rangers all over the world, and they start trying to kidnap even more of them because, spoiler alert, they do capture some of them in this, which is how you get some of the characters out and bring in some of the replacement characters from later on. But they captured several people from other seasons. I saw Tanya from Zeo was captured, the Zeo yellow one.
Dude, that's what I was going to ask you because I didn't remember. For some reason, I was thinking Aisha was the only Zeo Yellow Ranger. And she was in this. Zeo. Okay. So
she left so she didn't even get a send off when she left the show because you remember they were de-aged to kids.
Yeah.
The Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers were there. Billy got aged back up to normal. The rest of them didn't until the end of that when they went and got their Zeo Crystal. She didn't come back with the Zeo Crystal. She gave it to Tanya, and Tanya came back in her stead.
Okay. I will say her and Steve Cardenas, or however you say it, it's like they forgot how to act. They were the only two negatives I found about the show, honestly. Because like when her and Adam are doing their little scene where they're like, hey, it'll be 6 hours before we can get there. I was watching that, and it was like, if you've ever been to a theme park where they have these pre-video recorded things when you're in line, and it's like part of the amusement of like, okay, we need you to get right here. So when you get right here, this is going on. It reminded me just of that. I was like, oh man, her timing is so fucking delivery is so awful. I think I've been on an amusement park ride right now.
Well, if you actually look back, this was the only show those two ever did. Now
it's like he forgot all about his acting was brutal too.
And he's been back for a couple specials, but they like have him captured or whatever with the rest of them until the very end of the special, and then he gets to fight with them in the morph suit, and all he gets to say is Morphin Time and Tyrannosaurus. So that's real easy. But then she was a singer before she was on the show, she was part of a girls group. And then she hasn't done anything else I think of since other than conventions, and she does some writing and some like podcasts and stuff, but that's about it. But like But like Johnny Bosch, who plays Adam, does a lot of voice acting. He does a lot of. Yeah. He still does a lot of martial arts. Like he's got one martial arts movie with the guy who played Eric in Time Force, the Quantum Ranger. Mm-hmm. They beat the shit out of each other in that movie. His
delivery wasn't bad at all, and I always liked him. But like the Red Ranger, it was funny to me every time he morphed. He seemed to lose about 20 pounds.
You know what though? This is the thing that when he was on there as a teenager, he does a lot of martial
arts still. And
he owns several Brazilian jiu-jitsu schools and stuff. And he's not, I don't think he's in terrible shape, but it's like, what's bad is when he was on the show as a teen, they bulked up the suit to make him look like Jason. Because Austin St. John was a much more buff person than he was. He was much skinnier. Not calling either one of them out, but he was much skinnier, right? But now he's gotten bigger and they're like, well, we want you to be slimmer. It's like, well, damn it, I would have fit the suit when I was a teen now.
Yeah, because it wasn't like he looked fat or anything. I wasn't fat shaming because I'm a large fellow myself, but he just seemed to lose about 15 to 20 pounds every time he morphed. I was like, fuck, I want to morph. See what I look like.
The other thing I found that was really weird, too, when they morphed is every now and then when they would morph, they would give them the big turtleneck and then a smaller turtleneck under it, and you could see it. And I'm like, why is that not just one piece? Why do you need two turtlenecks for this costume?
But how weird does it look without that, though? Have you ever seen the pictures where they, for whatever reason, they don't have that?
Oh, if they don't have one at all, yes, but they had two. It's like you could see where it would end, and then the piece that wraps around the suit actor's head would start, and you could see both of them. I was like, extend this or change the helmet size or something.
Yeah.
Overall, though, really well done movie. I thought the plot was great. I mean, it really delved into it. There was a lot of feels in the plot. It had a very emotional plot. There was things that they called out for Power Rangers that's surprising. They didn't say, we have to destroy this monster. She's like, you're just going to let him live? Kill him.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
How cool was it? It's the first time they ever actually killed someone. And I mean, training done. Minutes in, it was like,
you had to.
I didn't expect that.
How else would you address that?
You know what? I honestly thought they was going to go with the route of maybe she had already perished in battle long before.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Somehow or another, one of them had been raising her daughter. That was kind of what I was expecting.
So
for them to actually go the route of killing her, I was like, holy shit, wow.
I will say this too: the cinematography, everything down until they did the Zords. The Zords, the CGI was a little clunky. It wasn't like 95 movie clunky, which was 95 movie, but it was a little clunky at times.
They could have stop motion this better. I will say that.
Or just put the guy in the box suit again. Just do the cardboard costume. But that was a little clunky, but man, the brightness of it and the look of it was really neat. They did a good job with that. The command center was amazing looking, the way they rebuilt it. Yeah.
I like the command center. And the scenes where the Megazord's kind of just standing still, he looked really clean and good. I like that. But the motions was a little bit like, you could tell they had put their budget elsewhere, because the rest of the movie are special. And the budget's really great. It looks really good. They did a good job. It doesn't have that made for TV vibe. I mean, it looks like a big budget production for most of it.
Yeah, the weapons look great when they pulled them out. The morphing sequences were awesome. The fight scenes they felt a little slower, but I think they were just trying to make it look more realistic with how it was, because it didn't seem slow. It just, if you watch the old ones, they would speed up those fight scenes a lot of times, and it's like they slowed it down to normal speed for this.
How disheartening was it they didn't form the power weapon at the end? I really thought that was what they was going to use to knock Rita out.
I thought maybe they would try something with that one. I would have rather seen that for destroying Minotaur or something versus how they just destroyed him by stabbing him. I was like, that was cool, but at the same time, I was like, I could have seen the power blaster being used there.
I'd like to see that there. And how bad that's for them putties in the beginning? Like up to about halfway into the special, those putties were fucking Hulk Hogan. They were undefeatable. And then all of a sudden they started getting beat, which I did like the effect they used. Like when they finally they crumbled apart. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. And my only complaint would have been with the entire thing would have been to see more of the older cast have more. Seeing Adam and Aisha have more to do than what they had in it.
Yeah.
maybe seeing some other Rangers from different eras, just like when they were spotlighting, like, hey, we're going to attack all over the world and capture these other ones. Maybe seeing some of them morph and have just a little cameo to morph and then fight versus we never see any of those.
To see the Time Force Rangers get captured. Like, because I was one of those seasons I did enjoy. It was the Time Force.
And they didn't even actually use any of them.
No. I was surprised because a lot of them they really stay in, touch with the community or whatnot. Did you notice that, okay, the red, green, and pink were the first ones that get captured?
Yeah.
If you looked at they showed up close to those when they got captured, when they were miniaturized. And you could tell they used like those 12-inch 03 figures, like the high-end quality 12-inch figures. And then the others that just glossed over, you could tell they were like just the Hasbro Lightnings.
when they put them in the machine piece, they were all Hasbro Lightning ones, even those. Yep.
Yeah,
I was like, you got them, I guess, flaunt them. It would have been nice to have seen some more of the characters come back. But overall, I if I got to grade it on a scale of, if we're grading it on an A to F scale, I would give it a strong A-, because there's still some things they could have done better. But for what it was, it fit the bill.
There's enough nostalgia in there for me. Yeah. And like I said, the feels at the end of the show was like, when they showed the flashback, I was like, you motherfuckers.
That flashback was so bad because that was from an episode. And I actually sang that song for Tommy losing his powers and leaving. And I'm like, well, then when you see they close up on Tommy and on Trini and they're singing that song about memories never die. And I'm like, that's terrible foreshadowing to go back to 1993 and see that. Now you see it sending people off.
I was in the middle of watching it. My wife walks in and she looks. She says, "Are you watching Power Rangers?" I am. I said, the anniversary show just hit, and she's like, "I'm going to the back room."
But with that, let's take a step back and look at some of the past stuff. So, one of the things you and I were talking just a little bit before the especially even aired is, really and truthfully, when this debuted in 1993, we were in our teens. We should have been getting out of this stuff. And, granted, we're nerds. We love the comics, the superhero stuff, but this was so cheesy and campy. We should never have gotten into it, but there was something about it that just pulled multiple people. And I don't care what anybody says who was a teenager in 1993 that said, there's no way I watched that crap. You're full of shit. Everybody was watching it because that was the most popular thing. You watched it,
you just didn't tell your friends you watched it.
That was the most popular thing on the TV. That was the most popular thing being sold in the toy aisles. There's no way those people weren't also watching it. But what was it about it to you that pulled you into it?
Initially, I didn't watch. That was the thing. Like, when it first hit, I was like, not that big a fan. I was like, it looks fucking lame. And like you said, we just becoming teenagers. You're trying to act a lot older than what you really are. Shit like that. But something about when the Green Ranger come on, like when that Greenwood Evil hit, I was like, oh, well, we got like an anti-hero Ranger. Okay. That kind of lured me in, and I was kind of hit and miss there for a little while. And then when Zed come on, I was hooked at that point. Because I literally remember it was like a Friday night, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they went to a prime time slot.
They did a prime time spot with the 3 episodes there where Zed, and it was like, it felt like a big movie premiere on a Friday evening. So, I mean, that I was hooked at that point. And then I started going back and watching the older ones, what you could, because, I mean, at the time, we didn't have streaming services.
Yeah, you had to watch reruns.
If you got a rerun, you were lucky, and they were out of sequence a lot. But yeah, that's when I started getting into it, and I was at that point. It's like, I got to hurry up, get home. Rangers come on to see them.
Yeah, I got hooked on it I watched the first episode because it aired after an X-Men. For the very first day it aired after the X-Men cartoon, and I stuck around and watched it. I was thinking at first, I was like, this is some banana splits bullshit. I do not want to see this. Then the more I watched
it seems like I did watch what you're talking about there, because I remember when they were really hyping it, but it just didn't catch me like it did once the Green Ranger.
I didn't think it was going to, and then after watching that first one, I was like, that wasn't too bad. And I watched the second episode when they fight Pudgy Pig and get their weapons and stuff, and I was like, all right. For whatever reason, now I'm hooked on it, but a lot of it was the martial arts, and then honestly, the cast was very diverse, but it made you the characters they made, other than the fact that you only got 2 bullies, and most of these folks would not normally be friends in most social circles and cliques, but you could relate to any one character on there at some point. Like, they were very relatable to what their characters were to what real life was. And it was just easy to watch. And then I remember, too, my favorite episodes at all were the primetime specials. As much as, much as Green with Evil and the White Light when they bring in the White Ranger were great, that prime time, the Mutiny was what it was called. And
Yep.
it aired with an X-Men cartoon. The first week was X-Men and that. The second week was X-Men and that. And the third week was just the final
wasn't that
part.
when the Dark Phoenix saga was dropping? They were pairing them up?
They were starting, it was season 2 of X-Men.
Okay.
So they met the Morlocks and stuff. So, yeah, some of that was part of it. I can't remember what the exact episodes of that, but I can tell you the exact episodes of Power Rangers was. And those were, like, really cool. And Zed was pretty awesome.
That first, I don't know what, maybe 8 to 10 episodes was Zed. Those were fucking legit. Like, I went back and rewatched a few of those this past week. But we had the Gremlin over here, so yeah, he loves Rangers. So I was like, I had an excuse to sit there and watch it, So I rewatched the Mutiny there, and I was like, yeah, it held up pretty good as a fanboy. And I was like, this ain't terrible. I mean, it still holds up pretty good.
They put much more into those 3 episodes than they did a lot of the others. And you could tell, like, I was like, even watching those as a kid and seeing it on primetime, and then sitting at my grandparents and my parents sitting there watching, and then because even like, and my dad's a nerd as well, you know him as well, and he's into all this stuff, but like he was never into that one. He actually sat there and enjoyed those episodes. And I mean, they had some other great ones too. Like I said, Green with Evil, White Light, the Ninja Quest one was actually a really cool one to me. But none of them held up as much as that episode. Those 3 episodes did. But the other thing that I really enjoyed as a kid though is the Zords and the weapons, because the Zords reminded me so much of Transformers, which was gone at this point for us. But so
to me, it was the combination of the Transformer aspect. But I was always a huge growing up. I mean, because of my mom. I mean, my mom, she's fucking batshit crazy, but she was a huge Godzilla person. And the Battle of the Monsters, the Titan type deal. So it was like a combination of Transformers and those Titans. So to me, it was just like, oh shit, this is just too cool.
Yeah, so a quick thing I wanted to ask you. Out of Mighty Morphin, because we had the Ninja Zords, the Dinozords, the Thunder Zords, the Shogun Zords, and I kind of say Titanus because he even though he's a dinosaur, he stands kind of alone because they brought him back for the Ninja and the Shogun ones. But how would you rank those for the Megazord portions, I guess? Titanus being separate just because he's kind of off on his own. But from those Zord groups, how would you rank those against each other?
Well, I'm gonna leave the Dragon Zord completely. He's my just favorite. Dragon Zord and White Zord. I'm gonna leave them out of this just because they're not. I don't include them in the combiners to me, even though I know they did some.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say this fella right here. He was my all-time favorite.
Mine too.
Because he seemed like he just stepped the game. Like you could tell, like as much as I like the OG one. Because to me, it's the Thunder Megazord and then the Megazord. That's kind of my pecking order. And I love the Megazord. Don't get me wrong, it's great. And I love the fact that that's what they brought back with the episode, the special. But you could tell when the Thunder Megazord was like, oh, shit got real. Like, we mean business, T-Rexy. It's over.
That was how I felt too. Like the Thunder Zord, and I hear a lot of people always go to the original one. And don't get me wrong, I love the original. But Thunder Zord was number 1. Right up under it was the Dino Megazord. Then the Ninja was kind of cool because it was a different look and sleek, and I love the fact when he got the wings from the Falcon and he was like he had.
That was the only part of that I liked. I was not a fan of the Ninja Zords at all, other than the White Falcon. I love the White Falcon. He looked cool, especially like sometimes he would like the wings would come out through the chest.
That's on the
like cannons.
Sword. Yeah,
I was like, oh, that's fucking badass. That was like legit.
The Shogun was the last to me just because the Zords lost their individuality. Like in all these others, they were different animals or different things. But on the Shogun one, it's all a warrior that transforms into it, and they just have a different head.
Yeah.
So I kind of got out of those a little bit, but I did like how the Falcon would connect to them to be the shoulder cannons for them. But the Thunder, I don't know what it was. The Thunder Megazord was just the coolest to me. And honestly,
aesthetically, it looked great.
If I broke down the actual individual Zords, one wins out just a little bit just because of a personal preference, because the first thing I ever bought with my own money was the Red Dragon Thunder Zord. But very close and almost tied with it was the White Tiger Zord, because those were sold separately. And I love that Red Dragon one. It was absolutely one of my favorites. And it's the
if I was going to do Zord. Like rank up just a handful of individual Zords, I got Dragon Zord, White Tiger, Falcon, and that Red Dragon. And if I was just going to close it out to have it even 5, I'd probably have to go with the was it the what was the Black Thunder Zord?
The Black Lion.
Yes, I liked it. It always looked really cool to me.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. If I had to rank individual ones, I would have said the Red Thunder, the Red Dragon, Thunder Zord, the White Tiger Zord, the Dragon Zord, the T-Rex, and then probably leaving out Titanus, I would probably go with that Black Lion. But if I had a Titanus in there, I would probably take him because I thought he was really neat.
He's one I regret not getting. And Serpentera as well. He's
That's
one
cool
I've almost went in a few times because unfortunately we hadn't got an updated version of him. But I've almost went in a few times to get the OG because I've seen it on eBay a couple of times, and pretty damn good condition. It's rare to find it, complete and not fucking 2 arms and legs. But I've almost went in a couple of times and got it.
So since we touched on them some, and we did talk about the ninjas, let's take a quick aside for a quick thoughts on the '95 movie. I'll tell you what, as bad as some of that is, and the watching it, and some of it's really cheesy, for what it is, it actually still holds up pretty decently. I can still sit there and watch it and enjoy it.
It had a lot of potential, and I did like their take on the suits. That was cool to me. The helmets were a little off. I felt they could have left the helmets completely alone from the show and just had those suits.
That's fair.
It would have looked a little better to me. Something about the heads looked fatter. I don't know what it was they did with the helmets.
Because they did a mold around their face, so everybody's helmet only fit them and their and then like whoever the suit actors were that only fit them and only fit the people who played the character. So each one of them had like 1 or 2 helmets apiece, and it's molded to their head, so like it had to be a larger size for the outside of the helmet.
Yeah, so I wasn't such a fan of the helmets. The suits look great. The Zords, those look terrible.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. The CGI on those Zords, and I realized this was in 1993. CGI was not the best at the time. 95.
No, but it was the thing at the time. Like anything you could throw some CGI in, people were going to do it. Like look at the Iron Man show. Animation was great on it. Then they threw shitty CGI into it.
Just when he
took you out of the show almost for a few minutes, and that's what kind of. That's always a drawback to the movie I didn't like. I mean, the rest of it still had a Ranger vibe. I wish they hadn't kind of just shit all over Zed and Rita because Zed looked really cool with the way they kind of upgraded his outfit. I'd rather see him and Ivan Ooze team up myself. That could have been cool.
The only 2 complaints, again, this movie is dated, so I can still watch and enjoy it, but there's 2 complaints to this day that I always have about this movie. Is if you sit down and watch this movie and try to count the number of times that Tommy hollers, "Hang on, Kimberly," he says it like every 5 minutes. I'm like, dude, either she needs to get better at her job or y'all need to fire her because she's like the worst of the team at this point because as much as you have to tell her to hang on because she's failing.
Now you see why we got Cat.
Yeah. And then my other big complaint was that it had no bearing or connection to the show other than it was Power Rangers.
Yeah, it was very much a side mission. And then the only reason you knew that they tied together at all was because the White Falcon Zord and the Ninjetti outfits. And then you had the Tingo Warriors. But you still had Zed Rita.
But you got different reasons for them to get those powers. Like, and Ivan Ooze doesn't exist in that timeline. You get different reasons for them getting those powers. It doesn't come from the planet Phaedos. It comes from Ninjor instead. And so, like, there's no connection to the movie other than that stuff came over. But, like, when you watch the second movie, the Turbo movie, it was actually a bridge the gap between the Zeo and Turbo seasons. And in the very first episode of Turbo, if you watch it, they actually go back and do a clips spot, like a music and clip spot of the movie to catch you up if you didn't watch the movie. But this one had nothing to do with it at all.
No, it was just like you turned on one afternoon. It was like, oh, it's different.
Yeah. With that, we're running closer on time. So what I wanted to do, and I had this in mind, is this is a new thing I wanted to try, and we haven't done this before, so even Hassel doesn't know we're going to do this. But what I wanted to do was like a rapid fire. We'll go through each of the characters and your quick opinion of what they were and who was your personal favorite and why. Okay. So let's start with the villains, and I'm only going to do like 4 of the villains because there were so many villains, and some of the monsters that were there with them were lackluster. Like I could have cared less about Babu and Squat. I mean, I know they're supposed to be the comic relief, but they meant nothing. I did like Fenster, but I did not include him. But Lord Zed.
Oh, that's my OG. That's number one villain for me.
For me too. But what was it about him that you liked?
Dude, he was so menacing looking. I mean, that look was so far ahead of his time. His visual, his voice, everything about this dude. I mean, it's just like you can see this in a real mainstream horror movie at the time. You could that's something out of a Wes Craven type deal.
Yeah, I just thought he was super. He made the perfect bad guy for the show.
Oh God, yes.
So next up, Rita Repulsa. What were your thoughts on her?
You know what? I was never all that big on her at all, and that's what I hated when they made her and Zed the love interest deal because it just killed Zed's momentum. And I get why they done it because the parents were bitching him on and Zed was too scary. But I've honestly never been big on Rita. I will say Robo Rita, I'm high on, very high. I would like to see her return.
I liked Rita in the first season because even though she was campy, she was still a villain. When they brought her back later on and they didn't have the footage and the voice actress was also playing her, I thought that was neat that they got to do that. But at the same time, I was like, all right, you kind of downplayed everything that Zed was trying to do. So I was kind of frustrated with her at that point.
They made her a little too comedic. And then once you start going that route, it's like, eh.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts on Ivan Ooze?
Initially, I thought he was actually a pretty cool concept. I would have kind of liked to have seen him somehow find his way onto the show. It would have made the movie seem a little more meaningful to me. I get you had to do away with him and defeat him at the end, but I mean, fuck, we defeated Zed and Rita every week, and they come back next week or the next day, even. So I don't know. I'd like to see him tied to the show. I just thought he was a cool concept, and it was kind of fun at the same time. Like with him, the little bit of comedy you had here there made more sense.
He was a menacing comedy. He reminds me of almost not quite as harsh, but almost like a Joker like level. Like he cracks these jokes and tries to make you laugh, but the whole time he's plotting how he's going to stab you.
Yeah,
it's like, I
very much
like
so.
him. I wish they would have kept him around. And the final villain I had, what did you think of Goldar?
I always thought they could have done so much more with him. Like he was always such a putz. Well, he started out kind of badass. Initially.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Season 1,
and it was like
he was tough.
Somewhere along the way, he went from being like he's kicking the shit out of the whole Rangers team to where, okay, all of a sudden he's doing one-on-ones with Tommy or Jason, and they're kind of holding their own. The next thing you know, he's getting humiliated left and right. And I thought, like, initially when Zed come on, they was finna try to build him back up and give him his wings back.
He got worse.
Okay. Yeah, it was like he just become he was the punchline every episode.
Yeah, I liked him when they first started, and he was tougher with the team. Now, I do like the fact that as the team got more experience, like Jason and Tommy, and even Zach to some degree, could kind of take him one-on-one a little bit. They didn't never fully defeat him, but they could kind of deal with him for the most part. But then when Zed came on and gave him his wings back, he just became a bumbling idiot. From that point on,
they made him the Vulcan
man.
Skull of the bad guys.
Speaking of,
especially when Rex come on there.
Did you see their cameo?
Dude, I was let down. They wasn't actually in it.
Me too, but I did like the fact that they at least brought them up.
Yeah, and you had the little sound effects, and I was like, okay, I you know what? If you don't have them on here, which I'm super surprised they didn't, because I'm pretty sure the actors would have returned, but
yeah,
it was pretty cool still.
So let's run down the list of Ranger characters real quick, and then we'll move to Nerd Out after this. But so, what were your thoughts on Jason?
I always liked him. He was a cool one of the bunch. He wasn't my favorite overall. I mean, but beyond who my obvious pick's going to be, he was my number 2. I liked it. I love the character development where he comes back as the Goldzilla Ranger. That was really cool because he had a really bad. He actually, that was the only time to me he kind of outshined Tommy as the badass of the group.
See, he was always my personal favorite, but I always liked the leader characters anyway. And to me, he fit the leader role so well. Like his character, the way he played the character and the way the character was written, he was the one that everybody looked to. All right, what are we going to do? And you could tell that
he checked all the boxes of a young Scott Summers.
Yes,
while he was part of Mighty Morphin, and almost like I guess at the time, Tommy was like the episode where Iceman shows back up and he calls, Cyclops little apple polisher. So that's kind of like what I got between the two.
I got that, and then when he came back as the Gold Zeo Ranger, I thought too that the switch in who's the Sixth Ranger versus the leader went very well. Yeah. And there was times where Jason would kind of like you could tell he wanted to step up and take over, and he'd be like, "No, I've matured. I came back as not the leader, so I'm not going to." And then when Tommy goes missing for a little bit, he kind of steps back into it, and everybody just falls in line. I was
he actually outshined Tommy and Zeo to me. He did.
Yeah, I was never big on Tommy being the leader. He's a loner to me.
Well, that's my thing. He's a much better Sixth Ranger than a leader.
Since we're talking about him, let's jump straight to him. So I'm sure that was your favorite.
Oh yeah, by far. But he's my favorite more as the Green Ranger. Now, once he went into the White Ranger, that was cool. But to me, the original Sixth Ranger struggling with the fact that he was evil and he's trying to get redemption, but he's still that loner badass anti-hero. Very Austin-esque at the time. That's what I dug about him.
I like that for him, but I will be honest, I preferred him as the White Ranger, but not the leader of the team. I wanted him to be the White Ranger and be the Sixth Ranger, because even when he was supposed to be the leader, 90% of the time he was all fighting by himself. Now, a lot of that has to do with the footage, right? Because that was a different show, and those characters and those costumes were not in the same show, so they couldn't cut it together, but still, he was still the loner. He never really grew into a leader to me, even in the later seasons like Zeo and stuff.
He wasn't a good, effective leader, never.
I always felt like he would question everything much more. Like Jason was like, "All right, this is what we're going to do, guys. Let's execute it." And Tommy was like, is this what we're going to do, guys? Is this what we're doing today? Maybe, possibly. Anybody on board?
He's almost like a supervisor if you've ever had that throws out suggestions, hoping.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, boss. What we do? Oh, so that is what we should do.
Exactly. But let's jump from him over to Kimberly.
She's my favorite Pink Ranger. I do prefer her hands down. She was everybody's first crush. Her and Kimberly Thiessen or however Tiffany off of Saved by the Bell.
Tiffany Amber Thiessen, yep, from Saved by the Bell.
Yeah, that chick. That's everybody's first two crushes. So yeah, she was legit. She was the first good one. She's some of what drew me in.
I will say this: I cared less for her on the show than I do right now in the comics. Like the way they write her in the comics, like she's gotten to be a little bit more central to the team. She's a little more of a badass. Yeah, she's doing more for the team. Like in the show, she came off sometimes like she's just kind of there. Not all the time. She played her part when she needed to, but they just didn't. They downplayed her character sometimes to me, where she could have done.
She
more.
was eye candy at the time, and that's what they used her as.
Yeah. And while we're on Pink Rangers, let's jump to Catherine. I was not a fan of her in Mighty Morphin. When she got to Zeo and then later on in Turbo, I felt like the character grew some, and she actually had. I feel like she found her own when she finally hit Zeo. Before that, she just felt like she was filling some shoes. Yes. Now I will say that as far as like you talk about Kimberly being everybody's crush, like I thought Catherine was beautiful when she was on there too. Like she filled the crush part too, but she just wasn't the same character as what Kimberly had. By season 3, Kimberly had a little bit better role to me. The first 2, she kind of floundered around a little bit. By 3, she was a little bit better, but then she turns around and leaves in that season. So yeah. So let's jump to another one. Let's go to Billy, the only guy who never left the show in them 3 seasons and stayed the same color.
He did. I always liked Billy. I mean, you needed that Hank McCoy of the group, and that's what he fit. He was the brains of the outfit. I mean, I always I dug him pretty good.
I liked him a lot, and I love the fact that he invented a lot of the weapons and stuff they used. My only complaint with Billy was always the fact that they were like, okay, he's the nerdy one of the group. Dude, they ain't too many nerds that's about as swole as that dude. Like, when they finally let him stop wearing the overalls and stuff, like, that dude was in shape. It's like, he ain't small. So,
and I mean, that, and I did like his character development and how he, he's developed all this shit by the time we get to the special.
Well, and he's also done that, but also like in Zeo, and I know he's trying to stay mostly in Mighty Morphin, but in Zeo, where he becomes like the mentor for the team. Yeah. Outside of when Zordon and Alpha do it, he kind of took a different role, and I kind of thought that was cool for him. What did you think of Trini?
She was okay. She's probably not my favorite Yellow Ranger, but she's okay. I never had I don't know. She just didn't vibe with me. I don't know. It's like I didn't dislike her, but I wasn't just like I actually,
That
for whatever reason, I liked Aisha a little better.
I liked Trini's delivery as part of the team as far as a fighter more than Aisha, but as far as like the character, they made that character come off so flat a lot of times. And I hate to say that about someone it wasn't her acting, you know, because she's passed away now. It wasn't her acting and stuff, but it was just the way they wrote the characters. Like she had very little to do, and the few times that they gave her a central story, you could see she had a lot more to her. They just wouldn't use it.
She was very token, I guess was the way to put it. And the only episode that really stands out to me with her is the one where like Kimberly gets all jealous, you know, because she gets hit with that spell, the jealousy spell or whatever, and it kind of puts the two against one another. That's really the only one that stands out to me with her.
I remember the episode where they tried to give her the backstory. She had the collection of dolls from wherever her family was from in Asia, and because I don't want to say which country because I don't remember which one it's supposed to be, but she had the Mr. Tickle Sneezer doll, and I just remember that more for that character. And then I remember the one where she was learning the praying mantis form from her uncle, who was like a kung fu master. So those are the two I remember of her. And I remember the episode where she was scared and she had to go on the heights to save Billy. But it was like you had one standout moment in the entire episode that was supposed to be central to you, and that you only had one moment in this whole show.
I did allude to that in the special though.
They did. What'd you think of Aisha though? Since you mentioned you liked her better than the Yellow Ranger.
She's my Yellow Ranger. Something about that little chocolate in that booty there. She drew me in.
She was probably it's a tie between her and Catherine, who was probably the worst looking in their fight scenes when they were in uniform.
Oh yeah, you could tell that she had no martial arts background at all.
No, she was a dancer. She had dancing background, and then the girl who played Catherine actually had a diving background, like a diving and swimming background. They had to have a background in some sport or type of activity like that, and that was hers. She was a diver and swimmer. But Aisha, I thought was a better character than Trini as far as like not overall for the character, but the way they wrote her, they made her character seem more.
They made her more
out.
relatable than things like that.
Yeah. And I guess we didn't do this one while we were doing Jason with the Red Ranger. What did you think of Rocky?
I hated him.
I hated
him.
Here was my problem with Rocky. He stepped into it to be the replacement for Jason. For one, he didn't feel the same bill that Jason was leaving on. He was never treated as the leader. And for his character, when he got to Zeo, he got a much better character development as the Blue Ranger than he ever did as the Red Ranger. He was basically just there to fill a slot on the team. But
was he ever actually supposed to be the leader when he was Red Ranger?
Well, that's the thing. They always said that Tommy was the leader as a White Ranger, but he's not in the Zord with them. The Red Ranger's in the middle of the Zord. The Red Ranger's there when the rest of the team's fighting because the White Ranger's not in the same footage. So they put him there like he was, but he never came off that way.
Yeah, he came off backup just like he did in the special. He's a backup.
Yeah, for that role, yes. Now, I will say to meet him in person, because I have met him, he's a really nice guy in person, and it gave me a little bit more respect for him, for his character after meeting him in person. But on Zeo, I think he actually got a fair shake on Zeo. I would have liked to have seen him stay for Turbo and be the Blue Ranger there and develop even more, but since he decided that's when he was ready to get out of acting and just run his martial arts schools, that he left. But I think,
and to be fair, that's probably why I really disliked him, is just because I was more of a Jason fan.
He was just standing there.
And whoever you put in that role after Jason was going to be a fucking scab at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, like, she held her own as Yellow Ranger, and I'll give Adam credit. As much as I like Zach, I did like Adam as a Black Ranger. He come off relatable, but Rocky was the shits.
Yeah, and I think it was just because he was stepping into those shoes, and it was not the right spot for him. But let's hit the Black Rangers, and that'll be the last one. So let's do Zach first.
I always liked Zach. I kind of hated to see him leave the show initially. I was let down. That's gonna suck, and because initially you didn't think Zach or Adam was going to be able to step into the role in the shoes, but he did a good job. So, but it's always like one of those deals where I really hated to see this actor leave, and I hate that he didn't really do much with the show afterwards. Like we're just now finally getting some stuff.
What's funny is he actually came back several times as a voice actor for the show.
But why not actually step back into the role at some point?
That I don't know.
He held out for the longest. Him and Billy both held out for the longest time.
He returned one time and did the special where they showed the clips from. This would have been in maybe Lost Galaxy when they thought the series was ending after In Space, and then they did Lost Galaxy and they did a Lost episode where they brought him and Austin St. John and they actually did the narration for the entire thing. They showed the original unaired pilot with the different Trini in it, and they showed a bunch of clips and they told the history of the show up to that point. And then they showed a bunch of things like that. So the two of them hosted it, but that was in, I don't know, I don't remember what year that was now, but that was the only time he came back other than voice acting, which surprised me. But I liked Zach. I thought he was really cool and fun to have as a different type of fighter. Like he was, before Tommy got there, he was your secondary fighter to Jason, but he had a really unique style about it. And he was the playful character. Yeah, he was your playful character too, which. Again, just like with like you said with Jason leaving and Rocky stepping in, it didn't fit. But when Adam stepped into Zach's spot, and Adam was a completely different character. He was your quiet, shy guy versus your outgoing Zach. But his character has so much impact and has so much to him that you could actually build off of it. I thought that he was if you were going to replace Zach, he was a great replacement for him.
And I think what made the fighting style that Zach had, the hip hop Keto, working so good was he came out at the same time as that Only the Strong come out.
Yeah.
And everybody was finally seeing what capoeira was. It was like, oh shit, you can kind of have some badass dancing and kick the shit out of people.
That's the one thing him and Adam had in common was the flashy fighting style. Because Zach's was let me dance while I do it, and Adam had that kung fu style where there's a lot of flips and turns and spins in the air, and they were both very flashy with that. But I actually enjoyed. I could have took either one of those Rangers as the Black Ranger. I actually enjoyed both of them a lot.
They're the ones that you could plug and play with either one, and I'm content.
So if I was to sit here and rank the top ones to me, first is Jason, second Tommy, third is probably Adam, and fourth would be Zach, and they're very close to each other. Adam had a longer tenure overall, so you got to see him grow some more.
And how cool was the episode where he returns later and he's got a broken morpher and he still morphs out?
Oh, dude, that was one of the best ones they ever did with a returning one. But with that, we kind of went a little bit long on our time, so let's jump straight into Nerd Out, sir. This is the part of the show for everybody who hasn't been here before. We're going to ask random questions about the topics of the day. We got to respond with no prep time. If you want to expand upon our answers or give your own answer to the question, please feel free to do so in the comments below. I went first up top, so I guess I'll be going first here too. So I'm going to give you a long-winded one, and give you a chance to give you a big answer on this. So you've got the opportunity to reboot the entire franchise. Now, I realize it's going to go through the same stuff, same type of things, but you can make 2 changes. And they could be big changes, it could be small changes, but what 2 changes to the aspect of the show would you make, and why? Yeah, difficult question, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Because it limits you.
Okay. My first change is I'm going with animated versus live action because you don't have to worry about budget then. And then your look will stay consistent. You don't have to use found footage. And none of the shit we've had in the past where it looks like 20 years old footage with updated shit.
Fair.
So I'm going animated style for 1. And 2, I'm going to go with probably a vibe very much like this special had, where it's, I won't say it's adult centered, towards the older generation, mature wise, but it's skates that line there where it's just enough to where the kiddies can enjoy it, but serious enough to where the preteen to adult can enjoy it. Maturity wise, I'm keeping that serious factor.
I got you.
Taking out some of the camps, so to speak.
Well, for me, my 2 changes. The first, I would keep it live action, to be honest. But the first change I would do is and this is, I know this all came down to outside real world stuff, right? But I would make sure that we don't have to replace the Rangers and lose the 3 that we lost and get replacements. And then even later on when we lose Kimberly as well, I would keep them and I would add a second team. And with this being back in the day, saying if I was rebooting it back then, it was an everyday show. One day would be this team featured on the episode, the next day would be this one. And it would be long running story arcs, but hey, we can have alternating. So if you want to watch one or the other, you watch the different days, or if you want to see both of them, because there would be team up parts of it too.
That is the cool thing about Zordon. You could do. You could have different stasis tubes in different places to where
and I would keep
they
them
can
both.
appear here and appear there. Maybe not at the same time, but
And I would keep them
back and
both
forth.
based out of the same area and have them team up at times too. But have the one command center, even that, or do like you said, but have one team that's more centered in this area, and then one that kind of deals with some of the other aspects. But I would keep the Dino team, and I would have Jason, Kimberly, Billy, Trini, Zach, and Tommy on it. And then I would do the Thunder team and use the Die Ranger suits that they didn't use, which was the season from the White Ranger.
Yeah.
And I would have Rocky be the red one, Catherine is pink, Aisha yellow, Adam as the White Ranger in that one. And then to round out that team, I would bring back characters that they completely brought in just to be red herrings for who was replacing those Rangers, and have Curtis and Richie from the – Curtis was Zach's cousin that was on there for a little bit, and Richie was the guy that was working at the juice bar for Ernie. I would bring them in as your blue and green Rangers.
You could always have West Coast Avengers. You have East Coast Rangers, West Coast Rangers.
Exactly.
It's the same continent, so they can still team up. Because you fucking teleport. I mean, let's be honest.
Oh, yeah. And to be honest, if you weren't going to do that and you were going to have two teams, at least let them change the suits when they got the Thunderzords, because it really didn't make any sense that they still looked the same and had the dinosaur helmet.
You still had a Tyrannosaurus helmet, but you had a red dragon.
Yeah. I was like,
I thought they should have changed.
They said that they were scared to change that because they thought it would lose the fans. I'm like, dude, at this point, they're so ingrained in this, they're not going anywhere. This early.
No, what they were scared to do is they had to film their own shit instead of using found footage.
Well, the only thing that probably started losing the fans is when you start changing the actual character that the Ranger is versus changing their suits. But my other change would have been, we got to keep the villains more menacing. You got to keep Zed as bad as he was when he first appeared. And if I was going to do the storyline with two different teams, I would bring in Ivan Ooze as a competitor to Zed. Like, they're trying to both outdo each other and take over the world. So one team could fight one team could fight the other, or vice versa, if they team up against them at times. So it would be a good dichotomy.
So you start with Zed as opposed to Rita?
I would have Rita and then have her changed out very quickly to Zed, like fairly early on, maybe right after.
She failed as Zed's like, I'm tired of shit.
Yeah, maybe after Green with Evil, he's like, all right, enough of your BS. I'm taking over. And then when you bring in the secondary team, you bring in Ivan Ooze as well.
See, the really cool thing about doing animated, you just change voice actors.
Yeah.
You can find voice actors that are close enough now to where they could just keep the same character with a different voice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that does make it easier. But that was my question and answer. So what is yours for today, sir?
All right. What one thing would you have changed about the special?
I would.
In a perfect world where you didn't have budget constraints, you didn't have actors bitching about this, that, or the other that they didn't want to return because of this, so you could do whatever you wanted.
I would have had Jason, Kimberly, and Tommy as their Rangers, had them on the team, and I would have gotten Zach, Aisha, Adam, Aisha, and Rocky there sooner to actually take part in it, and maybe given them different powers and different suits, but had everybody who was a Mighty Morphin Power Ranger should have been in it as a member. You could have made Catherine, Aisha, because you had Adam and Aisha part of the SPA, which was the precursor to SPD season. You could have easily thrown Rocky in there with them. Catherine could have been there because Tommy was involved, and they gave her a pink morpher of whatever they're using. You could have had two teams, but everybody who was a Mighty Morphin could have been in the show. That probably would have been the one thing I would have done differently. And I would have had Bulk and Skull too, since I'm bringing back everybody.
Bum, bum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah. So what would you have changed?
The one thing that makes the most sense, it would have fucking ended the same way the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger movie ended with Van Halen's Higher. Higher and higher. No. Besides that, I mean, that would have been cool, but no. Probably what I would have done, the only thing I would have done is bring back the same characters like you're saying. I'd have started out the movie or the special with Rocky, Zach Aisha there. They've been in Zeo form. Billy would have been assisting them still as a Mighty Morphin because he was actually with the Zeo Rangers. So it would make sense that he would be accommodating them, so to speak. And if you want a Trini there, that's fine, to explain why she's no longer there. I'd have still had Rita kill Trini, capture those three, and this way you could showcase, Tommy's, Jason, and Kimberly a little more.
Yeah.
And I'd have had a few more of the other Rangers show up. And the only thing I'd have done different towards the end, they would have formed the mega weapon to kill Rita. And then after they think the dust has settled, their juice barring up, you'd have got a flash to the Moon Palace where the dust of Rita is still settling, and you'd have seen Zed show up. And that's what it ended.
That would have been cool. Yeah, I would have enjoyed seeing Zed in it too, but they are using him in the current season.
Well, I like how they did Rita. I think if they'd brought him in as a tag team partner, they would have probably downplayed her powerfulness. Like, this is the first time you really got the vibe Rita was a badass.
And that's probably the same thing that would have happened to Billy and Zach's characters if you'd had Jason and Tommy. And it would have been
hard for them to take the spotlight, I guess. So
yeah, so there was that. But with that, I think that's getting us close to winding up for today. But before we get out of here, let's make sure we get some shout outs to some of our friends. So let's start with Mr. Wes Hartman, comic creator of DC and Marvel renown, and you can find him on his own Cosmic Roots imprint with series like The Savage Sasqanaut. You can find him on Facebook at Cosmic Root Studio, on Instagram at The Sasqanaut, and on his website, www.wes-hartman.com, where you can order all your copies of his comics. Check out our friend Mr. Chris Daly, host of the Fueled by Weird podcast. You can find him on Instagram at Fueled by Weird and anywhere where you find your podcast. And you can blah, 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 blah. I completely lost where I was talking at. We'll make fun of me this week. So don't forget about our other friend, Diorama customizer Seth Stafford. You can find him on Instagram at Trophy Hunter Toys. And yeah, see, we do record live. So while we do edit the show after we record and post it, you get all the live stuff. We don't cut any of this out. Yeah. So when that one went bad,
we fuck up, really know it.
Yeah. Don't forget about our friend, content creator, and autism activist, Miss Mandy Lynn, a.k.a. Coochie Mama. You can find her on Instagram at Coochie Mama and on YouTube at Doodle's Toy Report and her new channel, The Collector Sector. And don't forget to go check out her, not this week, but the week before's episode. We were actually on The Collector Sector with her. Check out August Aguilar from Strange Film Studios. Remember, keep an eye out for their newest project, The Gift. Yeah, I was going to say you were wearing the shirt. I hadn't got that far yet, but thank you. Mr. James B. Jefferson, creator of Warrior Island. You can catch updates on the comic and movie adaptation on his website, warriorisland.com. And don't forget our extended Nerdy Manroom family member, Big Rob. You can find him on his channel of Big Rob's House of Entertainment and No Chinese Food.
No Chinese food!
Knew you were going somewhere. You can check out all the drops he does there, which is new reviews, unboxings of new items, and stories from life on the road with Big Rob. And lately, he's been doing a lot of older movie reviews, which have been fun and entertaining to watch. I will say I don't know how he made it through that last one he watched, because I would have quit after like 30 minutes.
Tie sword.
Yeah. Oh, and while you're checking out all our friends, don't forget to go check out our sponsor, These Own Collectibles. You can find them on the internet at These Own Collectibles at gmail.com and on Facebook at These Own Collectibles, or in their store at 305 Main Street, Tifton, Georgia. Visit them for all your nerdy needs and help them support the local artist community by supporting their cause of bringing unity through community. Fandoms unite. But before we leave, most importantly, Hassel, tell everybody where they can find us as well.
Man, we are all over everything. You can find us on Twitter at Nerdy MR Show. You can find us on Instagram at the Nerdy Manroom Show. You can find us on Facebook at Hassel Hutchison via the Nerdy Manroom Show. And we are most obviously here on the YouTube, where we are getting very, very close to our 250 subscribers. And we're going to got a big, huge giveaway when we hit there. And we are on Roku TV at Southern Joy Media.
And with that, that brings us to a close today. But join us here next time. We're going to be discussing Star Wars for May the 4th be with you. Until then, may the power protect you.